Welcome back to my channel. I wanted to create a process video for a scrapbook layout. If you've seen my recent unboxing of the 49 and Market mystery box, you'll see that I have received these paper florals that really inspired me to get out some of my older 49 and Market collections and use them up. If you haven't seen that video, I'll have it linked below and you can take a peek and see what I got in that mystery box. So I really wanted to use these. They just reminded me of some photos that I have from Mexico of my daughter with these, I believe they're macaws. Just the colors of the water and the green and the yellow on the birds just kind of made me think beachy tropical layout here. So those are the photos I'm going to be scrapping. And I'm going to set aside these for now. I think they're going to add great texture and great, interest to the layout. So I pulled out this sheet of paper from the 49 and Market Kaleidoscope. I wanted to use this as my background. I also pulled out a couple others I'm not sure if I'm going to use. I might use this one here for some layering. And also another collection that I have is the Sunburst. There's a lot of beachy pool type elements in that collection as well. So yeah, just going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm going to be scrapping these 2 3x4 photos of my daughter from a trip to Mexico. Starting with this paper from Kaleidoscope. It's called the Treasured Teal. Really love those colors. That watercolor background is, I think, perfect for this. And then I just pulled these 2 from the Sunburst collection. So first, I know my photos are going to go on the right side stacked, just like that. And I just wanted to go ahead and map them on a couple different colors. So I've got this more pinkish one. Sorry, I don't have the names of those two. But they are from the 6x8 pages from the Sunburst collection. So I'm just cutting them down to a slight matte on both of my photos. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and rough up the edges as well to give it some texture. I really love adding the distressed edges to most of my projects. So there we go. Just a little matte. You can kind of see a little bit peeking out, and I noticed that this one with the yellow is just a little bit too big, so I'm just going to trim that down and rough it up again, and there we go. I tend to use my tape runner for when I'm matting my photos, just because when I use my wet glue, sometimes I see the line of glue through my photos. I did change to a more higher quality photo paper though, so I'm not sure if that would still be the case. Anyway, so here we go. I know I wanted to stack them on the right side, so I pulled out some of these layering pieces from the embellishment pack. I love that teal blue. I know that I want to have that long strip on the side there. Then I decide to use some of these other pieces that are kind of already got that distressed look to them. They're kind of torn and yeah, look distressed. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out here where I want them to actually sit and if this more of a peach tone would go with it. I did go through and see if I could find something else, but I did settle with this one in the end. I know I wanted to back this with some black and white, and this one here is actually from the Spectrum Gardenia collection. This one is from the Color Wheel page, and I love this black and white. I had an extra one in my stash from a previous 49 and Market mystery box, so I'm really happy with that. So I can use it up. It's one of my favorites, and I wish I had 20 of them to last me. Anyway, so here I am just trimming that down, and then I'm going to tear the right side, not realizing yet that maybe I would have rathered it be just a little longer but I will fix that a little later on. So again, I'm roughing up those edges and just kind of deciding how I want these to look. I think I'm starting to realize that with my photos and the mats now that these aren't quite long enough. So I will go ahead and show you how I fix that in a moment. I did want to kind of have them a little offset a bit on the side, just so that they're not completely stacked on top of one another. So once I know I'm happy with this, I go ahead and add that peach layer, and then I'm going to go ahead and stick them down, but not before I decide I'm going to cut this right in half and make it look like it's longer, because you won't see where I've cut it once everything is stuck down. There we go. I've got that exactly how I want it, just making it look a little longer just gives it a bit more of that blue on the bottom, which is the look I wanted. Kind of fiddling with this a little bit until I decide exactly how I want it to look, and then I'm just using my liquid glue to stick that down. There we go. Yeah, I end up pulling that down just a bit more, I believe. I thought I'd stick them together first, but I didn't let it sit long enough before I meddled with it because it didn't really stick. There we go. So I decide to just stick it down. There we go. Using my T-square ruler to make sure that they are straight, they match. There we go. Okay, this is where I'm thinking I really wish I had cut a larger piece, so I go back to that paper and just cut a little bit and tear it again, and then I'm just going to glue it together, and you can't even tell in the final layout that I have done that. It looks seamless. So that's perfect. Exactly the kind of look I wanted to go with. I really love the black and white when you're using a lot of color. It's a really good neutral. So yeah, I really like the way that looks. This is where I'm just trying to make sure it's lined up. And I really should have switched to my new glue because, yeah, just driving me nuts that I can't get the glue out fast enough. But it's okay. I'm going to use this up and then switch to my new glue. And I'm using the Barely Art Precision Craft glue for my layouts. It's typically what I use for actually cards and scrapbooks. It's my favorite. Anyway, so here we are. I'm starting to think about the title, and I know I want to use the word moments. And then I think I'm going to pull out some of the smaller rub-ons from the Sunburst collection. And I think I really wanted to add this one here in the corner, one of the corners, and I decided on the bottom left corner. It's got that yellow and green butterfly, which really pulls the color of the bird out, I think. I think it looks great with that. And then those tropical leaves kind of give this more of a tropical feel, just because the Kaleidoscope isn't really meant for tropical layouts, but I really, really love the colors of it. And I think it goes really well with the Sunburst, so I went ahead with that. And there we go, just using the little stick to get these rub-ons applied. And there we go, I'm getting that done, and then it's going to look perfect. There we go. Okay, and then I decide, okay, I'm going to need something in the top right corner now. So I decide on that one with the yellow and the pink flower and some of that greenery again. And I'm going to overlap one of the layers, which is something I like to do because they rub on so great that you can put them over top of layers, no problem. Really love these rub-ons from 49 and Market. I hope they always continue making them because they're my favorite. Okay, so there we go. I'm deciding now on my title. So I know I want to use moments, and you know, I'm going through everything, and I looked through, and I really liked the little tag that said special moments. I just didn't want it to be a tag, and I didn't really want to trim it either because I liked the length. So I will show you how I fix that in a moment as well. And I'm just going through the rub-ons this time from the Kaleidoscope collection, trying to see if there's something I want to use to anchor that title down. I didn't want it floating. Thinking about those stitched ones, and I'm looking at those watercolored ones, but then, I'm thinking I didn't want to add those grid lines that are on those rub-ons. So I just decided to put those away and work on something else. I pull up this pink tab and I use this happy word. Now that one is from the rub-ons from the Kaleidoscope. So I go ahead and I'm going to rub that on. I'm going to use my little tweezers here just so I can get the placement just right. I have a tendency to make things crooked or not centered sometimes, so I thought I would use my tweezers to help me out there. There we go. I'm going to put that down at the bottom right there, or the top right, sorry. Okay, then I find this die cut from the the laser cuts from Sunburst, and I think that those leaves are perfect. Gives me that visual triangle of all the leaves. And then I'm using the branding strip from that background page. I used the Treasured Teal, and I'm going to use this little envelope piece that's yellow and just kind of distress them and stick them together. And I think that is a really good way to bring the yellow to the left side. And yeah, just kind of layer them up. Just getting the placement right. Yeah, I felt like it needed a little bit of anchoring because I know I'm going to pull out those florals and use them eventually. So I wanted to make sure that everything was grounded and not just floating. So I was just sticking that down. I thought about moving that a little bit in more, but if you use Barely Art, once it's down, it's really down and you might tear your page. So I just wanted to leave that alone before I ruined it. I'm going to throw up another die cut in the corner up on the top right, and then also to this cluster here on the left next to the title. So I decide on where that Moments is going to go. I stick that to the layers there, and then I'm going to cover up that hole from that tag on the special word, and I'm going to cover it with that little bit of the T. So you won't even notice that it is a tag. I thought about putting some twine through it and just having the twine through, but I didn't want to have that look. Like I didn't want the twine to flow up. So I just wanted to leave it as if it's not a tag. So I'm just going to stick that down right there. Just like that, making sure it's somewhat straight. Perfect. Okay, now I'm pulling out those florals that I mentioned at the beginning that I got in my mystery box. And these colors are so pretty together, and they're just so perfect with those birds. So I decided to go with a larger teal one here on the left, and going to add a little yellow one. And I just use my same Barely Art liquid glue, and these things just stick down perfectly. I've got the layout in my hands right now, and they are not budging, so that glue works really well with it. Just kind of sorting through. I'm going to add some smaller florals to the top right in that cluster there. Sticking down that leaf sprig first. There we go. I'm struggling with getting some glue out again. And then the bottom, I wanted a different size, but I wasn't sure. So I just decided to go with a larger blue again, but just going to cut it off of the longer stem that one had. And then I'm going to use these little leaves together as well underneath to add a little bit more texture. Sticking that down. Yeah, liking the way that this is looking so far. And I know I want to use this little circular die cut element that says Love This Life. I'm just going to put some foam adhesive on the back and stick that down as well. Holding that down to make sure it adheres. I'm just looking for some more pieces and thinking I'm going to need something to add my date to. I don't think I'm going to add much journaling to this just because I have, and this was a photo session that was done by the photographies at the resort, or the photographers at the resort, and I have probably 10 photos, so I'm going to journal on one of them, but I didn't want to add the journaling to this one, just because this one, I liked how clean it looked. So I'm just going to add the date on this one with that little label. I go through and I'm going to use these wishing baubles from the Sunburst and grab that pink, actually, I think that's from the Kaleidoscope. I grabbed that pink heart to add next to special, next to the title. Just looking for some more pieces. What else can I add? And trying to clean as I go. This little piece, this semicircle pink, I'm going to add to the corner up the top there, and it just says favorite photos, because these are some of my favorite ones from that photo shoot of my daughter. There was some that they did of my daughter and my son as well, which are amazing, and I can't wait to scrap those as well. But yeah, these are some of my favorite ones of her solo. She looks so happy, and just such a good photo with those birds. So I'm adhering that tab down, and then this little tiny piece that says "You amaze me." Just going to put that in the corner there, making sure it's straight. And something is missing in that bottom cluster, and I'm thinking I'm just going to add another one of those yellow flowers. I didn't feel that there was enough yellow at the bottom there, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and stick that down, and I think that that really completes that cluster really well. Love how this turned out. This is such a beautiful collection. I tend to buy a lot, and so sometimes I forget about the things that I have that are older, so it's nice to go through and pull them out and then use them up. I noticed that I didn't have much of that pink in this cluster over here, so I grabbed some rub-ons again, this time of a pink butterfly, and I didn't want it over top of anything, so I kind of tuck it underneath the leaves there, and I think that that really, really finishes that cluster off really well. Yeah, there we go. Looks better. Grabbing a couple more of these enamel dots. That one says Fun Times. And yeah, looking for more stuff. Kind of wanted to add one more rub-on. There's a lot of rub-ons on this. Just to give it a little bit more of like a tropical feel, I wanted to use this little starfish. And I end up settling right here. And there we go, sticking that down. Love the way that turned out. I didn't want to overload that left side either, but I feel like the right side is quite heavy, so I needed to add just a little bit more. I had some trouble getting this one down for some reason, just because it's underneath all those layers, but they do rub on beautifully. Okay, here I am thinking, okay, I'm going to do something to the right or the left side again. I need a little bit more black and white on that side, so I grabbed that script page and I cut up. I do this a lot in a lot of my layouts. I cut up a section, roughed it up, and I'm just going to add a strip behind and give it that piece of text underneath. I love the way that turned out. It was just the perfect little bit. I didn't want to have too much black and white on that left side, but I think with the vertical elements on the right side, I think it needed something here that was black and white on the left. Sticking that down. Yeah, really happy with this layout. It's kind of turning out exactly how I envisioned, which makes me happy. Decided I wanted to add some glossy accents on this little circular piece at the bottom that I added, just to give it some shine and a tiny, tiny bit of dimension. It doesn't add a lot, but it's, when I'm looking at the layout, it gives it a bit of shine, and I like that. There we go. And that's it. That's the end of my layout. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a great crafty day. Thank you. Bye-bye.